All right, so Utah Jazz, Memphis Grizzlies just ended. Utah won 141 to 129. I'm just going to start off with John Morant was brilliant tonight, 47 points, 7 assists. I know they didn't get the win, and honestly, they're just overmatched by the Jazz, in my opinion. I know that they beat them on Saturday, but I think a lot of that had to do with Donovan Mitchell not playing, obviously, because he's a superstar. But also, I just think the news of him not playing, kind of just destroyed the team, because it seemed like he was going to play up till the game, and then that can really change the coaching staffs, everything, the players, their mentality and whatnot. So I think that kind of derailed them on Saturday. Not to take away from what the Grizzlies did, because I do really like the Grizzlies, and I think that they're an awesome young team. I don't think that they're going to win this series. Could they make it competitive and win another game? I think that's possible. In Mitchell's debut game back in 26 minutes, he scored 25 points. He had 12 in the first quarter, 8 for 19 from the field, 5 for 10 from the three-point line. Was brilliant tonight. Mike Conley had himself a nice game, 15 assists, 20 points. Honestly, I'm not a big Rudy Gobert guy. I'm not like he's overrated. I don't think he's I think it's Chris Vernon says it perfectly that he's helped Defensive Player of the Year. I know the stats, everything, blocks, but really, when another great center goes at him, he's not that great. But when he's able to play free safety and run around and be a help defender, he's awesome. Not to take away from what he does, because he is an anchor to their defense and was so great. And today, offensively, he was great. The Grizzlies could not guard him in that high pick and roll. The Grizzlies were just over-rotating or just weren't rotating into the right spots. Conley and Bogdanovich, pretty much anyone that Gobert was in the pick and roll with, they killed it. Either the player with the ball was scoring, or they were getting it to Rudy Gobert for a wide open layup or dunk. So that was pretty cool to see him get going offensively, because I think the thing for me is Rudy Gobert's an all-NBA guy, so he's guaranteed top. That says that you're a top 15 player in the NBA, and yet you get run off the floor. You're not a consistent scorer and whatnot. So it was cool to see him step up in the playoffs and have a big game. I thought he looked good, great defensively and offensively. Had 4 blocks, had 21 points, 13 rebounds. So that's an awesome night from him. You don't get that always, but it's good to get that from him. Hopefully you can get that consistently. Like I said, on the Grizzlies front, John Morant, insane. That's a playoff record for the Grizzlies, 47 points. Brooks had another good game, 23 points. Valanciunas, not terrible, 18. He got in early foul trouble, so that definitely hurt the Grizzlies. The same with Brooks. He got in early foul trouble, so that did really hurt them a lot too. The Grizzlies, they didn't shoot the ball as well as they did in game 1. 8 for 23 from the three-point line, 34% field goal. So that hurt them. The Jazz shot a lot better here, looking more like the Jazz. They look to have their swagger back and their confidence, and really probably having their emotional leader and their best player out there, and Donovan Mitchell probably really, really helps in saying a minutes limit. But still, he was really good. 12 in the first quarter, like I said. They shot 48% from the three-point line and 54% from the field. That's an awesome game, and that's what we come to expect from the Jazz. I think the biggest thing for the Grizzlies is they cannot defend the high pick and roll. And when Valanciunas got hurt, I didn't think it was necessarily going to help him. But I was like, okay, well, Jaren Jackson Jr. is more athletic, and I was just wrong. He was just not in the right positions, or he was getting out rebounded by Rudy Gobert. That's the biggest thing, is size-wise. Is if Jonas Valanciunas gets in foul trouble or is off the floor, the Grizzlies just have no answers, because I love Tillman, and he's the reason they're in this, because he had an awesome playing game, but he just does not have the size to go at the Jazz, and we saw it with Rudy Gobert getting a few offensive rebounds and really just destroying him. So Jonas Valanciunas has to be outstanding for them to win, and has to stay out of foul trouble. They got to get Jaren Jackson Jr. going somehow. I know it's only been 13 games he's played this year, but you got to get more out of him. And I think that I don't know if they are going to be able to get out of him. He just does not look right this year, which I'm not blaming him. 16 points, that's good. He has Eddie says this, and I do believe it. He has the tools and skill set to be a Defensive Player of the Year sometime, and he just hasn't looked good defensively at all this year. So they definitely need to find a way if they can get him going. Hopefully, it was a better game from him game 2 wise than game 1, but still they're going to need a lot more production from him moving forward, especially defensively. Because when he's locked in offensively, that really helps his defense, and kind of vice versa. So you got to get him going one way or another for Memphis to win this series. I would like to credit the Grizzlies in the third quarter, making a close game, and ultimately credit to the Jazz for ending that run and going on a run of their own and just kind of always answering when the Grizzlies went on a run. And that's what you see in the playoffs, and especially in the NBA. It's a game of runs, and you got to be able to go on your own runs, and you got to be able to withstand runs. And the Jazz were able to do that, and that's kind of the biggest reason why they won. On top of how well they shot it, they scored 141 points, franchise record. I don't know if that's for the playoffs or total. I kind of missed that, but I just saw it kind of go up on the screen. So that was cool. The Jazz shot the hell out of the ball. They were pretty good defensively. Like I said, Ja Morant was killer. And honestly, it was a fun game. Jazz kind of blew it open in there at the end, but it seemed like at halftime I recorded the Hawks and Wizards recaps, and I was kind of like, oh, I'll probably be able to get this Grizzlies one done before the game even ends, because it was just kind of going that way. So credit to the Grizzlies for making it a game and at least competing. And that's what you're getting from the Grizzlies. They're gonna, they're not grit and grind, but they still, they're not gonna give up. It's more than, I think they're calling themselves the next gen is kind of their thing. They play a bit faster pace and whatnot, but they don't give up. Maybe it's kind of like a Heat culture thing. I know that kind of gets mean, but it seems real. Like, the Grizzlies just do not give up, and they're going to keep fighting. And I think they're at least going to make this series interesting. I probably would say that the Jazz are going to win in 5 or 6, and probably handily. I think that the Grizzlies will steal another game, or at least make it tough like they did tonight. So I think that's going to be a big thing for the Grizzlies, and I think this will be cool for them to get their playoff lumps now, because they are such a young team. Ja Morant, year 2, Jaren Jackson Jr., year 3, Dillon Brooks, year 4, Bane, year 1, Tillman, year 1, and on down the list, year 3 and 4. Brandon Clark, who's not playing, but I would assume maybe eventually he gets off the bench. I don't know, but at least as a collective for the team, because they're so young, really, besides Valanciunas and Anderson, and they're not even that old, so it's good for them to get their playoff lumps now. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got from this game. We can move on to Wizards and then the game of the night, Hawks-Knicks. Really quickly before I get into Hawks-Knicks, I'll go over Wizards 76ers just briefly. This is probably the series I'm the least interested in. Just it's obvious Philly is the way better team. I mean, it was really fun and cool what the Wizards did there at the end of the season, going 17-6. But at the end of the day, they're just not a very good team. Westbrook and Beal can keep them in some games. Westbrook had a terrible game, 10 points, 2 of 10 from the field, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, so he didn't even get his triple-double. Beal has been really good, 33 points tonight. It was cool to see Ben Simmons be aggressive. Tobias Harris, I like what they're doing with him, bring him in the pick and roll and whatnot a bit more. Embiid just was feasting all game. I really just don't have a whole lot from that game. It's just obvious when the 76ers turn it on that they're just going to pull out the Washington Wizards, so we can move into the game of the night and the most exciting game. It's so awesome to have fans back, and especially at MSG. I believe that they're allowing the most fans. I could be wrong on that, but definitely seems like the most fans, how riled up they've been, and it feels like a true playoff atmosphere. In Utah, it's been pretty loud and good in there. I guess all around the board, it's been more of a playoff atmosphere than what we've been used to lately. So that's good to have fans in there, since it's been like 15 months and it's probably like 8,000 plus fans have been in the stadium together. So it's finally awesome to have that going. Real quick, Trae Young has been beasting and feasting in these playoffs. He had 30 points again tonight. Julius Randle, he struggled to begin the game, and he didn't make a shot from the field until the third quarter. So, but he did start to get going. He scored 13 in the second half. He hit 2 free throws in the first quarter. Reggie Bullock had a nice game. The Knicks bench outscored the Hawks by a whole bunch. I believe the Knicks got 60 points from their bench, and the Hawks got like 25, something like that. So the Knicks bench in these first 2 games has just been really, really, really good for him. Bogdanovic had another nice game. 2 of 13 from the three-point line. He probably should have hit a few more of those. He missed some open shots. He could have been better, but he wasn't the reason entirely why they lost. DeAndre Hunter had a better game, 18 points. He too missed some key 3-pointers at the end of the game, but that's not necessarily why they lost. I'm surprised. John Collins, that they're not really getting him going in the series, especially in the pick and roll. There are times when he rolls back or he'll come cutting in, and he's wide open, and the guys are just missing him. In 15 minutes, he had 0 points, so that was a bit of a shocker to me. Capella, I'm surprised too that they're not hitting more in the pick and roll. He only had 4 points. They got nothing from the bench pretty much. Lou Will's back to being playoff Lou Will that we're used to. He didn't really do anything. Herder had a pretty okay game, 10 points. Gallo did not look good, 2 of 9 from the 3-point line. Couldn't hit a shot on the 3-pointer. In the game, he finally hit one like in the fourth quarter, but at that point, it really just didn't matter. D Rose has been killing it in these playoffs. That's been really cool and awesome to see. You know, he's obviously athletically not the same as he was, but he can still get to his spots. Still an effective player, and like me and Eddie talked on the podcast last night, like that's probably the steal of the trade deadline, probably the biggest trade, and no one really talked about. We were talking about Vucevic. They didn't make the playoffs, and Aaron Gordon going to the Denver Nuggets. Well, he's been great for the Nuggets, you know, and they're probably, who knows what happened with the Blazers. You know, he's been good, but, you know, that didn't necessarily work out because, you know, Jamal Murray got hurt, and just on down the list with all the trades that we actually talked about. No one talked about the Rose trade. I know that obviously that happened before the trade deadline a few months, but he's been awesome for him. They're like 28-9 with him on the team or something like that. So that was insane. And all their plus minuses, they're always a plus with him on the court. So I was glad to see that he started for Peyton, because I can't believe Elfrid Payton even starts or even plays anymore. Like, I know it was only 5 minutes, but still, like, I'd rather just start quickly if you're gonna do that, if you want to keep bringing Derrick Rose off the bench, because I think quickly brings a good energy. He's maybe a bit worse defensively, but you could even argue that he's better if that's what you're going for with Elfrid Payton. Obviously, quickly is a lot better offensively. I know he didn't have the greatest night. In 15 minutes, he only had 4 points, but, you know, he wasn't really looking to get his own, or they weren't quite looking for him to get in there. Obi Toppin has been a nice throw-in for 12 minutes guy that can at least, you know, be fine. You know, go and replace Randall at the power forward. 8 points, brings some energy, made some good plays on the defensive end, had some good defensive possessions. So that could be a fun, interesting thing for them, because they really didn't get a whole lot from him during the regular season. Not saying he's a bust because it's year one, but it was looking like a possible mistake. So that's good to see that he's able to play in these playoffs and at least give you something. Alec Burks, he wasn't as good as game one, because game one was insane. It was like 18 points in the fourth quarter. He had 11 points in this game, which you'll take all day. Pretty much, if you can get anything over 10 from Alec Burks, you'll take that. And for some time there during the regular season, he was their closer. So it was good to see that. The Hawks, it was kind of weird, because they, in the first quarter, shot it pretty well. They were up a good amount. They were doing a good job on Randall, kind of doing what I like to call like a soft double team, or like a soft shadow, where you're kind of trying to force him one way, but you're not totally double teaming, where you have the big coming up and the guard or forward, whoever was on, just kind of riding his hip, pushing him into a tough, difficult shot, which were shots that he made all of the regular season. And I think that's the thing that we're forgetting with like Julius Randle. He's not taking like any different shots. It's maybe not even harder shots that he's taking. During the regular season, he was taking so many difficult shots and whatnot. He was just hitting them. And right now, at this point, he's not hitting as many of them. He did at the end, and, you know, had some big possessions. He had that assist to Taj Gibson where he dunked it, and then on the next play he had that Euro step layup that pretty much sealed the deal. So he had 2 clutch plays. But in the first half, every time the Knicks would go on a run, the Hawks answered, and I was like, oh damn, the Hawks are gonna win this. You know, they're looking, you know, that you can always be better and hit more shots, but it was like, okay, the Hawks are, you know, they're for real in this game and the series. I still think that the Hawks will win. I think that it's gonna be a good series. At the time, I was like, damn, the Hawks gonna win in like 5. But obviously, you know, that didn't happen. The Knicks went on their run. They went on a 14-2 run to tie it up in the third quarter. And then pretty much from that point on, they just had all the momentum and just kept it going. Trae Young in the fourth quarter himself, well, not himself, but when Trae checked back in, the Hawks went on a 13-3 run. But after that point, the Knicks, you know, just pretty much closed the door, and the Hawks couldn't really hit any more shots. And this is probably my favorite series, you know, out of all of them, honestly. This is probably going to go to 7, and it's just going to be an awesome series. It's going to be awesome to hopefully have Game 7 in New York. That would be insane. Hawks, I thought, looked good defensively to begin the game. And offensively, they did not finish great defensively or offensively. The Knicks really turned up the defensive intensity in the second half, kind of doing the same thing to Trae Young, not totally double teaming him, but doing like a soft double team, kind of push him into stuff. So look for that from Tibbs to start throwing different things at the Hawks throughout this series. He started to do that in the second half when they really needed to. But yeah, no, I still think that Trae Young had a great game. I think, what was it? He scored 30 points. He had 30 points and 7 assists, so that's a really good game. I've been really shocked. Like, I was really wrong about Trae Young. Honestly, like, pretty much this whole year and a lot of last year, I was kind of like, yeah, he can get you points and whatnot, but is it sustainable in the playoffs? Are they ever going to win? Is he a good teammate? Can he elevate his teammates? Can he make them better? And I've really had to swallow my words lately because he's really been good. He's not shooting a whole bunch of shots. He only shot 20 shots this game, had 7 assists, really has had timely buckets, timely everything. And, like, he was setting up his teammates at the end of the game. If the Hawks could have hit shots, they really could have won this game. If at the end, if Hunter missed some big shots, Hunter missed Capella on a lob, that would have tied it up. Bogdanovich missed a lot of shots. Gallinari missed a lot of shots. Just on down the list. Trae Young himself missed some shots at the end. So I still think that it was good for the Knicks to especially get a win at home. The Hawks have stolen, home court advantage if they could win out. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, no, like I'm saying, this series is going to be awesome. Definitely my favorite series of the playoffs so far. And I just can't wait to see what happens, because this feels like the series where anything can happen. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and like the video. And if your friends like basketball, please share this video with them. We'll be doing these recaps nightly. We won't be doing nightly podcasts, but we'll be doing pretty close to nightly podcasts. Especially if the games are good, you can expect to see the podcast. All those links are in our bios on our socials. You can find us on Instagram at all_sports_net, and same with our Twitter. And we also have our link tree in the description, and all of our links in the description of our YouTube videos as well. So please go check those out. That would really mean a lot. And have a good night.